You are not too cool for Eurovision. Sure, I went through a phase when I was listening to Lana Del Rey and Arctic Monkeys, and like any other 15-year-old with access to Tumblr, I thought that nobody can understand me, and I am above watching Eurovision. But now, 10 years later, I know better than that, which is nobody is too cool for Eurovision. This contest isn't about actual music. It's not about comparing how good the songs are in a professional way. No, it's about us Europeans and Australians, for some reason, coming together, laughing at each other's songs and having a good time. If I stumbled across these songs by accident on Spotify, would I listen to them? Of course not. But now, do I listen to them on repeat because they're both kind of good but also horrible at the same time? Yes. So today, in honor of Eurovision Song Contest 2023, which passed a couple of weeks ago, we're gonna be creating some self-portraits inspired by some of the contestants and their songs. We're gonna start with Poland. And for this, I will be building a set with some neon trees. Then I'm going to project some vaporwave graphics onto myself, and I'm gonna be wearing a dress that is both purple and orange at the same time. Or maybe let's leave that one for another time. Today I want to take a performer that probably could have represented Poland better, and that is Jan and his song Gladiator. His art direction in both the performance and the music video is very strongly contrasted. The shadows are very deep and dark, there's a lot of them. The highlights are very strong as well, there's kind of like a strobe effect. And in the visuals there's a lot of black leather and a lot of chain imagery. I believe the song is quite obviously criticizing the show business and the addiction to attention in a bit of a teenage way, but this is not high art, so we're gonna roll with it. So I want to take this theme of the vanity of the show business and the addiction to attention and combine it with the symbol of the chain, which kind of emphasizes that choking feeling you have when you have to follow somebody else's rules in order to make it in the creative field or something like that. So let's put everything together and go and take some pictures. So I have set everything up for the self-portrait. First, let's talk about my Berghain outfit. This is a dark gray net dress. I also have a satin dress underneath. And of course I added the chain element, this choker, which probably makes you question what I do at night. Then I added as many earrings as I could on my ears. And in terms of lighting, we're gonna be using nice soft daylight coming through my window. I'm gonna be sitting on my bed, posing for the camera, which is in my doorway. I was thinking of going for something darker and much more Jan style, but I don't want these photos to be a literal copy of these artists' visual language. I rather want them to be inspired by these artists. So I can take one element, which in this case is the choking, the chain element, put it into my context and make a new story out of it. And I think that's much more fun and much more interesting. So let's get to shooting. This is my chosen self-portrait inspired by Gladiator by Jan. Here I was going for that feeling of exhaustion, being tired from restrictions, which are represented by the choker, taking a break from constant fighting and being vulnerable. I think the point of view of the doorway also adds the feeling that we are witnessing something very private, something that's not meant for the eye of the spectator. Also for me, the editing here is intense. I usually go for something more subtle, but this time I actually really like it this way. I think the blue gradient emphasizes the concept and actually reminds me of watercolors, which adds to the melancholic mood of the photo. And even though it's not as dark as the inspiration, it still all amounts to a pretty heavy feeling. Here is a different edit of the same photo. I like the colors here a lot, but I think it totally changes the mood. Here I get a feeling of watching the world around you be filled with joy and happiness and not being able to involve yourself in it and break out of some caging emotions. Which I think is still an interesting storyline, but not the one that I was going for here. And here are three more that I really like. The first one feels more rigid, staged, so also playing with the addiction to being seen, the need to always be posing, adjusting to the viewer, wanting to control the perception of you. Look at me go with this art commentary. The colors of the middle one don't fit the concept as well, but in general on its own I think it's a fun portrait. Actually this one looks more inviting for a fight, as if catching the viewer and now they have to take account for peeking into the room. And in the third one I like the very dramatic pose and an even stronger feeling of a private breakdown.
Sinä olet Roosa. Sinä olet Roosa.
You guessed it right. Siirrymme kohti Eurovision todellista voittajaa, Suomea. Probably cursed somebody out by accident. Kääriä's song Cha 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 is chaotic, fun, and also kind of 3 songs in one. It's rebellious, cheeky, but in a metal Barbie kind of way. In terms of visuals, there's of course Kääriä's signature neon green, a lot of strobe lights, but also some black leather and spikes. So it's a chaotic but fun blend of pop, cheekiness, but also some screaming and a headbanging. So in this self-portrait I would like to combine the fun aspect together with the inner animal, the darker side of the song. And for that we will be using my bathroom, which is right behind me. So to achieve the look that I want, we will be using colored flashes by using gels. And by gels, I mean cut up plastic folders, because not using designated tools is my character trait. As you can see, I already have used this as a gel before, very unsuccessfully, and almost poisoned myself with melted plastic fumes. But we will be doing this again. And the exterior is going to have the signature Kääriä's green look. And this is going to be the flash that I use inside of the bathroom, a little bit stronger, less diffused, therefore a smaller softbox. And here we're adding a red plastic folder, aka gel. Kääriä uses his tongue a lot in his performance. It's both his own tongue and a graphic projected behind him on the stage, so I want to take this visual and play around with it. I will be using only my shadow as the subject, not my actual face, so I don't need to do much styling. And let's just put everything together and see what we can come up with. This is my favorite self-portrait inspired by Kääriä's Cha Cha Cha. I like the very contrasted extremes here. The saturated colors, the contrast between the sterile foreground and some mysterious, presumably messier backstory behind the closed doors. It almost looks like a clean cell that confines some very strong inner feeling, passion, desire, or overall strong energy. You kind of are very curious about what's in the room, but also afraid of finding out. The facial expression looks energetic, unhinged, but somehow draws you in, like a void staring back at you kind of a situation. Or it's just my face, I don't know. I for some reason thought that my face wouldn't be visible, that it would be just an outline of my head, but I'm actually glad that you can see my creepy eyes. I think it adds to the mental vibes of the photo. This is another photo that I like a lot. It's more of the demon chilling when they think you're not watching kind of a scenario. A little break from all the demon stuff. I love the version of orange lights instead of pink. It's not much about Kääriä's song anymore, but it reminds me of a still from a Wong Kar-wai movie. More of a colorful noir rather than demonic vibes. And here are 3 more shots worth mentioning. In the first one you can see me playing with the tongue visual I mentioned before, but I feel like then the photo becomes a little less subtle and storytelling, it becomes more literal. The middle one is another nice movie still. And in the last one I like the rigid staged posing. The whole photo feels like a theater stage and it feels fake. I think it's an interesting and unsettling feeling. For this one I would need to get high and do some yoga, but unfortunately I'm too dedicated to learning Finnish instead. Loreen, representing Sweden, came to Eurovision with Tattoo, a song that is a generic, overly dramatic song about love, which is also a copy of her previous Eurovision song Euphoria, which was also a generic, overly dramatic song about love. But Loreen won this year, and she won for the second time ever, and she's the first woman to ever win Eurovision twice. In her performance, she uses her fingers a lot, instead of tongue the way Katia does. So that will be the main element of my self-portrait as well. For the photo we need a plain neutral background, so I just need to quickly rearrange my whole bedroom and make an absolute mess out of it. I'm done setting up the lighting. I put up my soft box as high up as I can and I tilted it a little bit. In terms of styling, Loreen wears this beige, heavily Dune-inspired outfit in her performances. But if I wore something like that, I would look like a Weisswurst. So instead of it, I'm wearing all black thermals. I'm sweating a lot, it's summer, so hopefully I can get done with this photo shoot quickly. I'm wearing a lot of rings in order to bring more attention to my fingers. And I will be adding some fake nails. It'll be a lot of fun to handle all of this, but that's what you do for art. So let's go. What the fuck? My chosen self-portrait inspired by Loreen's song Tattoo. I think it's a soft, intimate portrait, and it kind of conveys the openness and willingness to love fully and completely, readiness to be vulnerable. And yes, I know it sounds a bit like a stretch, it's just a portrait. This one has the least obvious storytelling from the three, but at the same time I like that this one is more subtle and purely depends on the facial expressions and the hands to convey a feeling. And for my resting brick face, this is no easy task. On a side note, I'm kinda sad that the nails don't have as much of an impact on the photo as they had on my mobility. Here are 3 more portraits that I like, and in general I'm very happy with the coloring of these. For my brain, this cold background, warm skin and the lip tone combo is very satisfying. These are pretty simple, but they were still fun to shoot, and in general I prefer to hide myself behind playing a character or behind heavy editing, but in these ones I kind of feel myself, and that's good, I guess. So here we go, we just did 3 photo shoots inspired by Eurovision Song Contest 2023. I think it's a good exercise to kind of free up when coming up with concepts for photos. I think it's a good reminder that you can always take this micro-macro approach, steal something from somebody else and then see what kind of context or story you can put it into. I think this was also a nice opportunity for me to try out different editing techniques, as this was a brief I gave to my own self, not by somebody else. But for the next one I'm definitely getting a model. Posing is hard, as it turns out. And if I was meant to be posing, I would be doing that, not being behind the camera. Oh, and I hope I have inspired you to watch Eurovision next year. And if you still think that Eurovision is lame, maybe you're lame. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you think about the photos and the Eurovision in the comments. And see you in the next one. Bye! To my hands I have added a lot of fingers. What?